Partner with eMarketer on data-driven marketing materials. Our custom reports give eMarketer Media Solutions clients the opportunity to generate new category insights through original surveys and analysis. You can head to eMarketer.com/advertise to, of course, learn more. Hello, everyone, and thanks for hanging out with us for the Behind the Numbers Weekly Listen, an eMarketer podcast. This is the Friday show that might be getting hustled by Marissa Koslov. We just worked this out. So our colleague, Marissa, who listens to the show, hello, Marissa, we're on to you. She's been pretending not to know about sports and crushing everyone in the fantasy football and apparently the March Madness bracket.
Yeah, classic misdirect.
Hey, you guys started fantasy football yet? I didn't get the invite.
Moving on. I'm your host, Marcus. Maybe next year, Zach. Maybe next year. I'm your host, Marcus Johnson. In today's show, the biggest takeaway from the new NBA rights deal: will the concept of consumer modes catch on? How will Google's AI overviews affect publishers in the future? What will happen to X or Twitter's user base by next year? And the state of America's vacation culture. We start with our Senior Director of Forecasting based in New York City. It's Oscar Orozco.
Hello, gentlemen. Hello, listeners. Happy to be on.
Hey, fella. Happy to have you. Also in that same town, we have our principal forecasting writer. His name is Ethan Cramer-Flood.
The forecasters are back. What? Okay. It's been a minute.
That's right.
Been a minute.
And finally, we have someone else who's part of that crew, part of the forecasting team, our senior forecasting analyst. He's based in Colorado. It's, of course, Zach Goldner.
Hey. If they live in a town, then I think I live in a little settlement. New York's a little bigger than that.
That's probably fair. Although it's losing people, I read. I think it lost about 80,000 people between 2022 and 2023.
We didn't want them.
It's not... Oh, okay.
Never come back.
Not losing enough. Still too busy. What do we have in store for you today? A story of the week, a game. We end with some random trivia. Let's get to it. We start, of course, with the story of the week. The new NBA rights deal. So the NBA strikes gold, apparently, with a new $76 billion 11-year media rights deal with Disney, NBC Universal, and Amazon Prime Video, notes our Senior Director of Briefings, Jeremy Goldman. The deal, which is 2.5 times the value of the last one, goes into effect after the coming season. And Jeremy notes that Disney's ABC and ESPN will continue to host the NBA Finals and Christmas Day games. NBCU gets opening night games and a new Sunday night primetime slot, and also the All-Star game. And Amazon gets the play-in tournament and will help with the NBA League Pass, and then there's a bunch of games divvied up amongst them. Warner Brothers Discovery, though, who have hosted the NBA on its TNT network for over 30 years, are taking the NBA to court after its matching offer was rejected, and they were left with no NBA rights at all. Oscar, I'll start with you. What to you was the biggest takeaway from this new NBA rights deal?
The biggest takeaway, I mean, what's that emoji with the money mouth face, and I think there's like a green bill for a tongue and a dollar sign as cha-ching. That's honestly what it is. I mean, the NBA should consider changing its logo to that emoji.
To the dollar sign.
Sorry, Jerry West.
Jerry West, unbelievable.
It's crazy. I mean, there really is a lot to digest here. Aside from that, of course, for me, the biggest question mark, really, and the biggest takeaway that I'd like to talk about here is the future of venue sports. Given the fact that Warner Brothers Discovery was sort of pushed out of this deal, so and of course I believe you talked about it just the other day on the podcast here. Just a recent ruling that puts just the future. Or the platform in jeopardy in its future longevity. So
that's quickly for folks, the collaboration between Disney, Fox, and Warner Brothers Discovery. It's a sports streaming focused service that they tried to launch. We're going to launch for this upcoming NFL season, and the court said, "No, whoa, 1 second. You've got too many of the sports rights. This is going to be a monopoly and probably kill people like Fubo." TV.
Exactly. And I mean, what this whole deal is telling us is the future of sports is streaming, right? So you have to wonder if what's the state of the relationship between Fox, Disney, and Warner Brothers Discovery, whether this could be a sign that ultimately it will not come to fruition in the end, and what will that mean more so for consumers here? But of course, when you think of just the future state and of sports streaming and what that'll mean for ad market as well. So just a lot of question marks there for me, because to me that was the story of 2024. And so putting this deal aside, I'm curious about what will happen there.
Yeah, it's certainly bad news for Warner Brothers Discovery. Depending on how the courts rule, this is still pending, this decision. It's kind of a bit awkward because they're suing the people that they're still in business with, because this deal doesn't get the people that they're still in business with, because this deal won't start until next year. So they're still going to work with the NBA this year. And it's TNT, Warner Brothers Discovery's channel, is the NBA's oldest media partner. Right. They still have some smaller rights deals, NASCAR, NHL, MLB, but
they also got NCAA basketball. I want to say they have NCAA basketball.
They have some of
a new sport as well.
Okay, there's nothing like the NBA or even the NFL for that matter. Zach, what for you was the biggest takeaway?
Yeah, I'm with Oscar on this. Money talks. I think the biggest winner is Adam Silver with this. And the deal is able to negotiate. A 2.5x over what the last media rights deal is huge. Just think about the profits that the owners are going to be making. And then the players union for the NBA is extremely strong. So I can't remember what the 12th man makes in the NBA. I want to say it's somewhere in the range of like roughly $5 million a year. Imagine it's going to be 2x'd. Same thing with your LeBron James of the league. They're going to be making a lot more money. Those players are going to get their contract in a couple of years, going to be raking it in.
Yeah, someone's going to be making $100 million a year before you know it.
That's and I've always thought that would maybe happen in the MLB first, but or maybe the NFL, but it's looking likely like it'll be in the NBA, right, guys?
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. Is he the GOAT, Zach? Is he the GOAT of commissioners, Mr. Adam Silver?
I took a picture of him when I was 13. It's great time. I love the guy. I think he's done a great job being able to manage the players and owners. It seems like for most part, it is one of the best run leagues in the US. So I think Adam Silver's done a great job. But I do want to give a counterpoint. Even though I think Adam Silver and the money is a big winner this time around, I don't think the same thing for the fans. I know that's the message that NBA is giving. It's going to be a lot more accessible, especially over digital. But first of all, you're losing what could be the best coverage team in all sports, which is inside the NBA with Shaq, Charles Barkley, Ernie Johnson, etc. And that is like something. One of the main.
Kenny gets the etc. That's tough on Kenny.
It's true.
Kenny's the best.
I agree with that.
But yeah, it's their kind of marquee show, NBA show for TNT, which is owned by Warner Brothers.
But for those that thought that cutting the cord would be the best option, now you're gonna have to pay for cable, you're gonna have to pay for Peacock, you're gonna have to pay for Amazon to watch all those games, or and ESPN Plus, I believe. Or you can just fork over a lot of money and pay for NBA League Pass. So it really is going to be a pain for the fans and their wallets.
Yeah.
All right. Now, come on. Now, that's about what we're losing. What about what we're gaining? John Tesh is back, y'all. Round ball rock. Let's do it. Is
that what we're talking about?
See, the Gen Zers in the audience are like, what's he talking about? But anybody who watched the NBA in the 90s and the 2000s knows that NBC is getting basketball back, which means we're getting John Tesh back, the most fire-up music of all time. The big winner here is Peacock. Right, this is my takeaway. So I'm looping in my NBC Comcast Peacock story into one. This is huge news for them, right? We're talking about what we're losing with Warner Brothers, what Disney managed to maintain, and then we don't even have time to bring up Amazon. But we just saw Peacock come off these incredibly successful Olympics. They've got the NFL on there now. They've got an exclusive NFL game. They've got Sunday Night Football. And now they're going to have NBA, lots and lots of NBA games, both on NBC and on Peacock all year round. They're making huge moves, right? This is what had been considered a second-tier streaming service that I bet is going to be very close to a top-tier service. doing a slightly different strategy, right? They're simulcast. A lot of stuff is going to be they're doing a strategy of maintaining linear TV while also having stuff on streaming in a way that maybe Disney Plus isn't doing. I think this is gigantic for them. I think that I kind of disagree with Zach's. I understand the point that we're losing Charles and Shaq and Kenny and Ernie, but overall, there's actually going to be more NBA available. If you have cable TV and Amazon Prime, and almost everyone has Amazon Prime, if you have cable and Amazon Prime, you're going to have more NBA games than ever. It is not going to be actually be too hard to access this because Disney's stuff is all still going to be on TV and NBC stuff is going to be on TV. And then we all have Amazon. So I don't know. Like, but I'm kind of down with this. I don't care what happens with Venue. I think this is a good deal for everyone.
Ethan, what do you think is going to happen to the prices of all those subscription services? They're surely not going to stay the same once they take over those new sports streaming rights.
Yeah, but I got cable. So, that's your problem.
Ethan's the last person in America who has cable.
Even above me.
Was Oscar for a while, yeah. No, it does seem like there's more winners than there are losers, but there are going to be a few. Maybe if it's consumers have to try and find stuff, it's a bit hard for them. Warner Brothers Discovery is an obvious one. I want to speak about one other winner here, which is the WNBA, because they're also going to benefit. So as part of this NBA deal starting next season, WNBA will receive at least $200 million per year from the broadcast partners we talked about, plus around $60 million from other deals. Now, $200 million is not near the $7 billion a year the NBA is going to get. It's 35 times less. However, that $200 million is 6 times what the league currently gets. And the WNBA is going to reevaluate the media rights in about 4 years' time because ratings and season length are expected to go up. So I do think this was a win for them as well.
Shout out New York Liberty, first place.
Come on, Fever. Do better. And that's really quickly to the final point. I mean, this testament to women's sports, worldwide women's professional sports. I found some numbers on worldwide women's professional sports revenues, and they're growing really fast. So this chart, you can see, this is data from Deloitte that shows that the dollars are nearly doubling from basically $700 million to $1.3 billion in the past 2 years. So incredible growth there. Still small numbers that are too small compared to the male counterparts, or compared to what the men are making. But the growth suggests that it's going in the right direction. Final thing I want to mention as well is this is a big deal for advertisers for a few reasons. One is the NBA is one of the few remaining large live TV audiences. The NBA's regular season viewership last season averaged about 1.6 million viewers per game. And Jason Nossi of Adweek had 2 important points for advertisers. One, there's lots of impressions here. So TV analytics company EDO was noting that last season, the NBA produced over 56 billion impressions for advertisers across 29,000, making the full NBA season 4 times more impactful for advertisers than the average primetime program. So the NBA is a big deal in that regard. And then 2, the NBA over-indexes on engagement. Viewers were 12% more likely to engage with ads during an NBA game than during the average primetime broadcast, up 15% year on year and up 40% in the playoffs, making the NBA second only to the NFL in effectiveness for advertisers. So lots of reasons to be pleased with this. Some reasons to maybe not be. But we move now to the game of the week. Today's game, the Super Duper game. How does it work? 3 rounds. Today we have Fortune Teller, the random scale, and fill in the blank. The better the answers, the more points you get. Round 1. We start with Ethan for Fortune Teller, where we predict the future. Forget habits, preferences, and demographics. Tap into consumer modes, suggests Dave Norton of experience strategy company Stone Mantle. He just wrote in an Adweek article that, quote, messaging toward situational needs is a far more cost-effective way to win customers. Close quote. Mr. Norton talks about modes, a mindset and a set of behaviors people get into temporarily. Think mum mode or work mode, etc. He gives the example of American economy hotel chain Red Roof Inn, who used data to send mobile ads to folks who were in my flight just got cancelled mode. so they could get them a room because they'd be staying where they work. So the flight got cancelled. He posits that understanding modes helps marketers understand the real-time needs of people. But fortune teller, Ethan, will the concept of consumer modes garner more significance than other targeting methods?
Yeah, I mean, I think this has legs. I don't know about more significance than, it's not going to garner more significance than responding to a search query. But I think it's a good idea, and it's likely to gain traction. It makes a lot of sense when you think about the emergence of commerce media, for instance, where we're thinking more about where a person is and what they're up to rather than who they are. So if you are on your bank's website, you are probably in financial management mode. This is what you're thinking about. If you're on a plane or if you're on a travel and transit related website, you're in travel mode. You're thinking about movement, right? It doesn't matter your demographics, your race, gender, previous purchase history, right? Because you're just in a different frame of mind. I think this is the way to go, and particularly if you can manage it in a sort of non-invasive way, a privacy protecting way, which is possible if you're just thinking about this is where these people are, this is their mindset, this is the mode that they're in.
Oscar.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I don't think it's a new concept per se, though. Ironically, I think some sort of smart marketer has just rebranded it so in that way, right? Being sold as some sort of alternative at this point. I mean, clearly the whole mode state of mind thing, it's, I thought that stat from, the 2,000% growth in Google searches over the past 5 years is very powerful. People are thinking in that way. It's a self-motivational phrase, right? For people to be more productive and get tasks done, et cetera. So that's very interesting. But again, I don't think it's a new concept. I think the concept of targeting consumers, whether they're, based on their past purchases or personalities or preferences, that's still going to be some sort of a thing, right? But I also think there'll be a time and place for large companies to flex their budgets and spend on just branding and awareness. So it's just like another tool for marketers and something that has been around, just that there's, more focus on it now than before.
Zach.
Yeah, well, it seems like a good idea to me at face value, but the real challenge to me is really to identify when someone is in a particular mode and for how long they'll be in that mode. Like Ethan mentioned, when you're on your bank, like a banking app, maybe you're in a financial services mode at that time, but how long is it going to last? I could see a lot of complexity and potential inaccuracies about determining whether you're in that mode or not. And that's not even take into consideration the privacy implications. Marketers and advertising has gotten a lot of trouble and things have gotten a lot tougher to be able to track people over time, or at least there's more legislation coming into play where I could see this having a hard time really taking off moving forward.
Some great answers, gents. Let's move to round two, and we have the random scale. That's where folks have to tell me about the chances of something happening using the random scale. We're talking about Google's AI overviews and how they're not hurting some publishers' traffic yet, but they still loom large. This was an article from our briefings analyst, Daniel Konstantinovich. He notes that publishers have yet to see significant traffic drop-offs due to the launch of Google's AI overviews, according to Q2 results from the New York Times, IAC, and Ziff Davis. Before AI overviews were broadly rolled out before the summer, there were estimations that publishers' search traffic could fall by as much as 60%. Daniel cautions that whilst the first quarter of AI overviews has not significantly affected traffic for some publishers, that doesn't mean it won't be a large threat in the long term. Question is, how much will Google's AI overviews affect publishers? The possible choices today, we're starting with Oscar, are current data is proof things won't be that bad, or things will get slightly worse, or this is simply the calm before the storm. Oscar.
I'm somewhere in the middle on this one, and so I'm going with things will get slightly worse. I just think in this instance, it's a bit too soon to call, AI overviews an existential crisis for publishers, or that there's, this huge storm that's coming. And it's not necessarily just based on that data. I mean, I think of just anything with technology, it's a two-way street. So consumers have to adopt it, right? There are going to be people who will just simply ignore them. They're going to go straight to their favorite publishers. Keep in mind that, you know, the AI overviews have to link to these resources as well. So, and I don't think they will ultimately work for every type of search query. You know, just as we see now, it'll get a little bit better, but it's not going to work. So Google's going to stand to benefit from this. We're going to see more and more of it. But I do think there's going to be more regulation, safeguards, revenue sharing with publishers as well. So it changes the game a little bit, but it's going to take a bit of time. So things will get slightly worse, but you know, it'll take decades, is what I think.
Okay, Zach.
Decades is a long time, especially at the rate of how AI is exponentially growing at the moment. For that reason, I'm going to take that this is simply the calm before the storm. I think that publishers should start weatherproofing now, weatherproofing their strategies, so they can stay high and dry as things change a lot in following few years. I don't think it's going to be this year. I don't think it's going to be next. But moving forward, I could really see this taking away more and more search ad revenue from publishers. When you guys use Chat GPT and generative AI in your searches, the results that I get are a lot better than going to a site that's just trying to a made for advertising website or something like that that might not have great context. You have to search through and go through all those ads. What I can say is if you're able to get those results in the queries, that could take a lot of ad revenue from a lot of sites that are currently doing quite well.
Really lent into the weather metaphor at the beginning. Extra points. Ethan.
This is convenient, actually, because I was going to pick the other one anyway. I don't think that things are going to get that bad or much worse for two reasons. First and foremost, because things are already bad. Like the enormous amount of damage has already been done. The devastation to independent digital publishers' ad revenues has already happened. Google has already swamped them completely. There is not much damage left to do. But the other reason, which is probably more useful, is that at least the current format of AI overviews is really not that different than what we already see. It provides a little bit of a blurb of an answer. We already are used to Google giving us those little blurb excerpts from your search results. It's just right now, it's the AI overviews is just a little bit more stuff on the screen that is already extremely busy and full of stuff. If you're going to a Google search, there's basically two kinds of people searching. You're going on there because you want the search to lead you somewhere that you intend to go. You're going to click. You're looking for an article. You're looking for a source. You're looking for a place to shop. You're going to Google so that you can eventually click through, and those people still are going to click through. And then there's all the other searchers that were going to that Google page just to get a quick answer. They weren't going to click through anyway. They're still not going to click through. This is just another quick way to get a quick answer. So I don't think it changes very much. Not yet.
I want to make one last point where I really worry is for news publishers. When ChatGPT or another generative AI platform is able to pull from the editorial style and the voice of all the news publishers on the current market, there's going to be less and less of a need to actually go to those individual sites. Going to be less ad revenue coming to them and more people just using the search browser as is and getting a query from there.
I appreciate you guys taking a stab at this one because so far AI overviews haven't yet been rolled out at scale, and so it is hard to predict. But it's interesting that you all take the separate positions. Daniel, who wrote the piece, was noting that AI overviews only appeared on 15%, 15% of search queries in May, according to Bright Edge, but Google believes the product is the future of its search experience, meaning it's likely to expand to yet untouched search categories. All right, gents, let's see what the scores look like. Oscar's pretty rough
scores. I always forget that he scores them. Come on.
Yeah.
Zach, I got my hat in the closet.
Zach's, no need. Although, well, no need. You might win, but no need for the hat. Zach, 5 points, Ethan 4, Oscar with 3.
Round 2 was totally me. Get out of here. All right, whatever.
Well, round 2 was. Round 1, you really struggled. All right, let's move into the final round. What do we have for you? Round 3 is fill in the blank, where folks do that. We're talking about X or the X or Twitter Exodus. That wasn't. That's the title of an article by Sarah Perez of TechCrunch, where she notes that despite the anecdotal evidence on Meta's rival Threads, where folks can't stop talking about deleting their Twitter accounts, the App Store and website traffic data from Sensor Tower, SimilarWeb, and App Figures doesn't yet reflect any significant changes in Twitter users fleeing the platform en masse. But fill in the blank. We'll start with Zach. By next year, X or Twitter's user base will be blank.
Loud, proud with a small crowd. See what I did there?
Oh my God.
Not your best work.
Was that an AI thing? Yeah,
yeah. ChatGPT. Can you give me a rhyme?
No, that's my brain up there.
You should have said it was AI. Go on.
Well, as much as everyone expected Twitter or X to really blow up in the months following Elon Musk's acquisition, I don't really think it did. I mean, it dropped, what was it, 12% in user base. But since then, it has really much flattened out. Even with our last forecast from our eMarketer perspective, we have looked at it really flatline. My best guess is for this next year for it to experience a further stabilization. However, you're going to see the base pivot more and more towards a niche, loyal community and platform shift to a subscription-driven model where there's going to be fewer users, but those having more of a niche focus. And with the election taking place too, I think that niche focus is going to be more on political matters and political denying as well, which I don't think is going to fare all too great for advertisers that might look to go back onto the platform. I continue to see a big mess, but I don't think that the platform is going to hemorrhage many more users in the coming year.
Ethan.
I mean, this is easy. Next year, X will have 3.8% fewer users than this year for just about 52 million monthly users in the US.
Sounds like our forecast, Ethan. Yeah.
This is what we do.
How
is it? How did Zach not throw this out there? And for that matter, Threads will have 22.8% more users and will just about catch it. So yeah, all right. So I mean, my real answer is that it's more on the Threads side. I think Threads is thriving. Threads is coming into its own. It's going to succeed. It will catch X relatively soon. It will exceed X in the coming years. I have anecdotal evidence of that myself. My girlfriend, who's a longtime Twitter user, has finally shifted over to Threads. She reports that it has now become a place where there's lots and lots and lots of people. There's lots of content. You can waste a lot of time there. You can have fun there. Wasn't really the case, 6 months ago. But on the other hand, X is not going away, right? I don't buy this X exodus. I don't think, it's gonna go slightly down. It will be superseded by Threads, but it's not going away. It's gonna keep right on churning because people love to scream at each other and they want to be there in that cesspool.
I mean, it seems like there's some hard numbers on Threads growing as well. They said they crossed the 200 million monthly active user mark. It's up from 150 in April. Oscar, what's your answer, sir?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm on the same page as Ethan here, and I think our forecasts reflect that, as he was joking about. It's slight declines. I mean, and I
these
think that's
forecasts are not a joke, buddy.
Yeah, that's right. and that's what we've thought all along, right? So slight declines. I mean, I think, it's a couple of things. I mean, it's not just Threads, it's Blue Sky, it's Mastodon, it's these other services that are taking some market share away from X, and that's not a good thing. I mean, X was in a position at some point with no real viable competitors, and they've really ruined it for themselves, right? With Musk's antics, and people are sick of site degradation. There's inappropriate ads. There's increased ad loads across the board, and it is interfering with users' experiences. And I can say that anecdotally as well. Inappropriate posts. So that's going to slowly take away some of the user base. And again, I think that's what our forecasts are showing anyway. So yeah, that's the case. And X will still have millions and millions of users, of course. We'll see what the floor will look like. We're not clear on that yet.
I know we've compared Threads and Twitter, or Threads and X a lot to each other. I would just mention with X, I think we'll see a lot more of an engaged core audience. When you look at Threads, it's much more of like an add-on to that of Instagram, something that people will see on their Instagram feed every now and then and want to click and might browse through it once every few weeks. And that still counts as a monthly active user. But I think in terms of X, people are on more on a daily matter to get their latest news, whether it's good news or bad news. They're getting it all on that platform.
So let me quickly give you the two arguments: glass half empty and glass half full. So glass half empty, looking at our figures that you guys put together. So half empty is Ad revenues were more than cut in half, going from, this isn't to do exactly with the user base, but it is reflective of the user base, because if people go away, the dollar's going to drop. So ad revenues more than cut in half, going from 2.4 billion to 1 billion from 2022 to 2023. 2, we expect time spent on the platform by users to fall 25% from 2022 to 2026. And 3, we estimate that the US users will fall from 60 million to 50 million during that same time frame, 2022 to 2026. So that's glass half empty. Glass half full, 1, X appears to have stemmed the bleeding when it comes to ad dollars. We think they're going to make about $1 billion each over the next few years. 2, by 2026, we still expect users to spend 27 minutes per day on the platform. And 3, Gen Z are sticking around for the most part. So people are leaving, but that cohort seems to be, for the most part, staying.
We should also qualify that all the numbers we've referenced are U.S. numbers, right? And
yes,
you will often see in articles about this, they're talking about global figures. Where of course Twitter has a long sort of legacy of a lot of users, and Threads is still relatively new. So you're going to see like numbers in the hundreds of millions, and you're going to see different revenue numbers.
Yeah.
But I think the trends still maintain, but that's why you might see different things depending on where you're looking.
Yeah. That's
good note too for X ad revenue in 2024, that factors in a little bit of political ad spending happening this year for a little bit of the reason for the slight rebound.
True. All right, gents, count the scores. Drum roll. Zach is this week's winner of the game of the week. For the love of God, don't get the hat.
Just because this is just because he said he had the hat. He wants to see the hat.
What is going on here?
Clearly, this is a subliminal.
I want to do it for the fans.
He subconsciously give you the win because he wants to see the hat.
Zach 7, Ethan 6, Oscar 5. Oscar probably a foreshadowing of this upcoming fantasy football season.
Whoa, what is going on in here? So was it just because Zach came in with all the crazy ideas and that's what won it for him?
Pretty much,
yes. Is that what it is?
I felt bad for him. All right. Yeah, your extension of the metaphor was really what won it for you. But congratulations to you to win the championship belt. Anyway, let's move on to our final segment of the day. It's dinner party data. This is the part of the show where we hopefully quickly tell you about the most interesting thing we've learned this week. We start with the winner of the game of the week. Zach, go.
Since everyone thinks that I use ChatGPT
for everything,
for my answers and all my puns, I want to use dinner party data about ChatGPT and the power that it uses. So a normal ChatGPT query takes about 1,600% more energy than that of a Google search query. So you think about that when you add it all up, about how much more of a footprint that's going to have than crypto. At the moment, what I've read is that ChatGPT itself uses around 17,000 times more electricity than the average U.S. household in a day. And if you were to compare it to that of the energy intake of different countries, it will make up, or it's already surpassed a yearly power intake of countries like Guatemala and Croatia, and I've heard even bigger than that too. So,
all right. There were some good ones, though. Some interesting facts. Oscar. No, you came third. Ethan.
Actually, that makes sense. I think you're that makes sense. I'll explain why.
I got a brief history nugget for you. So I was in Canada last week on vacation. Shout out Canada, by the way. I was in Montreal, and beautiful city. Turns out Montreal was, for a brief period of time, the capital of Canada. Did not know that. Capital being Ottawa, for everyone out there who's trying to remember in their head what the capital of Canada is. Montreal was very briefly the capital in like the 1840s, back when it was still under British rule. But it was only for about 5 years. And they lost their position as the capital because there were riots in the city, and they burned down their own parliament building. And then after they burned down their own parliament building, the government resettled like across the street on the second floor of this agricultural market. And when Queen Victoria heard about all this, she said, all right, now that like you burned down parliament and now like the seat of the government is on top of like a farmer's market, you guys are out.
She said, you ruined it.
And this is according to our tour guide in the history district of Old Montreal. So if I'm playing fast and loose with the details, whatever. So she was just like, you blew it. You've lost your privileges. You guys cannot handle being the capital. And she moved it on out of there. And then it landed in Ottawa, and there it remains. So Montreal had a shot, and they just couldn't handle it.
Ruined it, man.
Queen Victoria must have never had that poutine.
I'm telling
also,
you.
is this data?
I was told that this is dinner party anecdotes.
It was I think it's in 1840.
Yeah. The data is 1844 to 1849. Boom.
Very
numbers.
Nice. Oscar, you're up.
All right. Well, I think this is a perfect order. I think you're going to talk about travel, Marcus. That's great.
Culture.
Perfect. Amazing. Well, here we go. I've done a bit of traveling this summer. I was reading that airlines are struggling. That prices are up, but I noticed tons of travelers, tons of people still flying, which is not what I was reading about before. So I just wanted to look into airline prices and things like that. So prices for airline tickets, they've actually decreased about 7%. And this is just a March to March number, March 2023 to 2024. So they've been decreasing. However, they are still up slightly compared to pre-pandemic prices. So March 2019 to 2024, they're up 2.6% specifically. So prices are still a little bit high, but they're not that bad, which could explain why people are traveling a ton. But why are they struggling? Well, jet fuel prices while they're down, they're still 34% higher than in 2019. Also, there are serious airline staffing issues. So if you're flying, be nice to all the staff, please. And demand has started to come down just a little bit. So I think the margins are just a little bit tight. But aside from that, I also found just a couple really interesting stats. Let's see if you guys can guess. But just in terms of what is the most expensive city and the least expensive city to fly out of in the U.S.? And this is according to Q4 2023 data from the Bureau of Transportation Statistics. So any guesses on the most expensive city to fly out of in the U.S., guys?
How do they even calculate that? No, I don't know.
Probably the OTAs.
Is it a small town because there are fewer options? Oh. Or is it about the airport
Jackson
fees?
Hole.
You might be onto something there, Ethan.
Well, New York City has outrageous airport fees, but they also have a million ways to fly out of it, so it wouldn't be New York. I mean, you can get out of here for $100 depending on what you want to do.
Think more exotic.
Albany.
Honolulu.
Close. It's actually Guam. Which does count. Over $1,500 an average ticket cost. That's why people don't go there. And the cheapest, last is the last of it, guys. No, I think it's where you fly out of, Zach. Fort Collins? Is that where you are?
No, I don't fly out of Fort Collins.
Is that close enough? $83 a ticket. Well, you should, Zach.
We don't have our Colorado geography figured out.
You should. It's cheap. All right, that's it for me. Go ahead.
Very nice. All right, yeah, that kind of dovetails quite nicely with the state of America's vacation culture. So I've got a bunch of stuff here for you. I'll get through it as quick as I can. Let's do it. Number one, Americans struggle to unplug, according to LinkedIn's latest workforce confidence survey. 51% of US employees planned to take time off and unplug this summer. 59% of vacationers report checking in with work by answering emails or phone calls. For younger folks, it's closer to 40% of them. 35% of employees feel guilty taking time off at all. And in a separate Harris poll survey, 78% of US workers aren't using all of their PTO. 75% wish they were able to. Second thing here, for one reason or another, lots of workers are just unplugging during work. 56% of younger generations, so Gen Z and millennial workers, report participating in the trend of quiet quitting. And one issue is Americans don't get enough time off to recharge. US workers get an average of just 12 days of paid time off per year, with 11 getting used according to a recent global survey from Expedia. By contrast, workers in France get 3 times as many days off, with an average of 31 days off a year, taking 29 of the 31.
Just awful.
Wow.
That's how we roll.
Just awful. So really quickly, the why. The Harris poll shed some light on this. So the top barriers preventing workers from taking more time off were pressure to always be available and respond to demands and heavy workload, Half of folks get nervous when requesting time off from their employer. Two ways, let me end with this, 2 ways companies can help. 1, 3/4 of workers said they wish their workplace culture placed a stronger emphasis on the value of taking regular breaks and utilizing paid time off. And 2, companies might want to prioritize time off a little more, especially since it's the 3rd most important factor, time off, when considering a new job. Nearly as important as healthcare. Obviously money's 1, then healthcare, but close behind that is time off. But time off is more important than than remote work policies, culture, and childcare opportunities. Yeah,
powerful stuff.
You guys need more days. Not you, Oscar. You need to do some work. You've been off.
I thought he was better.
I do too.
His new time
Oscar's
off.
playing fast and loose with this unlimited vacation policy. That's all we've got time for today's episode. Thank you so much to my guests. Thank you, of course, to him, to Oscar.
Thank you very much. Happy to be on, Marcus.
Yes, sir. Thank you, of course, to Ethan.
Good to be back. I mean, we took so much vacation this summer. That's why we haven't been here as much.
2 months I've been trying to get you back on the show.
I think
and congrats to our winner of the game of the week, Zach.
Thanks, and I think I'll be requesting my time off right after we end this right here.
You're not getting it. Just saying.
Thanks to Victoria, who edits the show. Stuart runs the team. Sophie does our social media. Lance runs our video podcast. And thanks to everyone for listening in. If you have a few seconds, would you mind writing us a review? They really, really do help us keep this podcast going. We hope to see you on Tuesday, though, for the Behind the Numbers Daily and eMarketer podcast because of the long weekend. We hope you enjoy your long Labor Day weekends.